So today we'll take a look at the Buddha on his journey for the search for the truth. Now, after he left Rajagaha, we see that Gautama went in search of teachers in order to instruct him in the way of the truth. And we see that this is mentioned by the Buddha in several discourses. So first he went to Alara Kalama. He was a renowned sage and he expressed his desire or his wish to enter or to follow Alara's system. Now we see that Alara gladly accepted Gautama as his pupil. And here we see that Gautama rapidly mastered Alara's whole system. And then he asked his teacher as to how far he himself had realized the teaching. Now, Alara told him that he had attained the sphere of nothing. And we see that Gautama soon attained that same mystical state by himself. Now, let's take a look at what is the sphere of nothing.
The sphere of nothing, also known as the sphere of nothingness or akinkanyatana in Pali, is a profound concept from Buddhist meditation practices. It represents one of the higher states of meditative absorption, or jhanas, that Gautama Buddha experienced on his quest for enlightenment. In Buddhism, the attainment of enlightenment involves progressing through various stages of meditative absorption. The sphere of nothingness is part of the formless realms, which are more advanced stages of meditative practice. By the time a meditator reaches the sphere of nothingness, they have already transcended the first four jhanas associated with the realm of form, rupa jhanas. They have also moved beyond the fifth and sixth jhanas, the infinite space and infinite consciousness. In this state, the meditator perceives a profound emptiness or void. However, this is not a nihilistic emptiness, but rather a state devoid of any specific objects of perception. Attaining this state requires an extremely high level of concentration and mental discipline. The meditator's mind becomes so refined that it can maintain awareness without any sensory or conceptual distractions. The sphere of nothingness is beyond ordinary conceptual thought. The meditator does not engage with thoughts or ideas. Instead, they experience a profound stillness and emptiness. Gautama Buddha, during his quest for enlightenment, explored various meditative practices and attained different states of jhana. The sphere of nothingness was one of these advanced states. However, while these meditative states are highly refined and peaceful, the Buddha realized that they were not the ultimate goal. True enlightenment, or nirvana, goes beyond even the highest meditative attainments. Enlightenment involves a deep understanding of the nature of reality, including the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. It is the complete eradication of ignorance and craving, leading to the cessation of suffering.
So we see that Alara admitted that this was the highest stage which he could teach, and therefore he now declared Gautama and he as equal. So after this we see that Alara in a way said that both of them were equal in every respect, in knowledge, in practice, as well as in attainment. And in this way, we see that he invited Gautama to guide the community of Alara's disciples. But we see that the Buddha later spoke of this occasion in a sutra, saying that in this way, Alara Kalama, my teacher, set me, his pupil, on the same level as himself and honored me with the highest honor. However, we see that Gautama was not satisfied with the sphere of nothing. We see that this is the highest which Alara could offer him. Okay, but Gautama was in the search for absolute truth. And as a result of it, we see that he left Alara Kalama and now he decides to go in search of somebody who can take him to a more high level. So this journey is always a kind of an ascending journey of his. So we see that he goes to Uddaka Ramaputta, who was another great teacher. And here we see that Uddaka Ramaputta taught him the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And this way we see that it is a higher mystical state than the sphere of nothing. But we see that Gautama was still not satisfied, okay, and he wanted to still continue to search for the truth. Now let's take a look at this sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. So here we feel that we see that generally in this is one of the we see that this is one of the most refined, immaterial jhana. And in this state we see that the perception is so subtle and faint it is so subtle and faint that it is almost absent. Yet we see that some level of perception is still there. So in a way we can say that it is not a complete absence of perception, neither it is definite perception. And in this way we see that between perception and non-perception there is a kind of a blurred line. So in his search for the truth we see that as Buddha travels through the Magadha country, he now arrives at Senanigama, and this we see that is somewhere near Uruvela. And we see that according to his own words, he describes this as a beautiful stretch of land, a lovely woodland grove with clear flowing river, pleasant ford and a village for support close by. Now, at this point of time, he was joined by a group of 5 ascetics. So, as we know that Buddha himself was inspired by the wanderer who was dressed in a yellow tunic. And similarly, in those days, it was common for people to be inspired by somebody who was following a different lifestyle and wanting to follow them and be their disciples. So, he was joined by a group of 5 ascetics, and we know that Kondana was one of them. Now, this Kondana, as we spoke in the last class, was the same Brahmin who, at the name giving ceremony, had predicted that he would become a Buddha. And now we see that his real struggle begins. We see that he practiced a lot of severe austerities. Now, for nearly 6 years, we are told that he began this struggle, this search for the truth in an area near Uruvela, which is modern day Gaya. And for 6 years, he practiced various severe austerities and also extreme self-mortification. And these austerities are vividly described by Buddha himself. And what he looked like and what happened to him is described in the ancient texts as well. So let's take a look at that.
Gautama's real struggle in his search for the truth began in the area around Uruvela, near modern-day Gaya. Here, for nearly 6 years, he practiced various severe austerities and extreme self-mortification. These austerities were vividly described in several discourses attributed to the Buddha himself, such as in the Majjhima Nikaya. What he looked like and what happened to him is described in the following words from the ancient text. Because of so little nourishment, all my limbs became like some withered creepers with knotted joints, my buttocks like a buffalo's hoof, my backbone protruding like a string of balls, my ribs like rafters of a dilapidated shed. The pupils of my eyes appeared sunk deep in their sockets as water appears shining at the bottom of a deep well. My scalp became shriveled and shrunk as a bitter gourd cut unripe becomes shriveled and shrunk by sun and wind. The skin of my belly came to be cleaving to my backbone. When I wanted to obey the calls of nature, I fell down on my face then and there. When I stroked my limbs with my hands, hairs rotted at the roots fell away from my body. Despite these extreme hardships, Gautama's unwavering determination and search for truth eventually led him to enlightenment, teaching us the value of perseverance and inner strength.
Now we see that there are many later representations of the Buddha that also portray him in that emancipated state. Now, what are the consequences of this severe bodily austerity? So we see that he became weak, as is natural. He became weak, and it is said that he once fainted and was also taken to be dead. And from these experiences, he realized that such mortifications could not help him to achieve the goal. And therefore, he decided to change his way of life. Now, as he decided to change his way of life, he decided that again he would begin to eat proper amounts of food as he was doing earlier. Now, at this, we see that these 5 companions who had joined him, who had so much of faith in him, they were disappointed. They had so much of faith that this man would achieve something great, and they were disappointed at his rejection of extreme asceticism, and they left him in disgust. Now we see that Gautama remained alone in Uruvela, and here we see that he regained his health and his strength. And now he began to follow his own path. Earlier we see that he was trying to go and look at various teachers who could teach him how to attain enlightenment. Now he decides to take his own path, listen to his inner self and move forward. So now we come to the great enlightenment. So it is said that one morning as he was seated under a banyan tree, Gautama accepted an offering of a bowl of milk rice that was given by the daughter of the landowner of the village of Senanigama. And we see that this was his last meal before his enlightenment, and he spent the day in a grove of sal trees. Now as evening came, we see that he went to the base of a peepal tree, which is now known as the Bodhi or the Bo tree. He sat cross-legged, and now he was determined not to rise unless and until he had attained enlightenment. Okay, so how he still goes ahead, what are the struggles that he will face, we will take a look at the next class.